Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following: IU Health Southern Indiana physicians, primary care and specialty care providers now accepting new patients in Bloomington and throughout South Central Indiana. siphysicians.org. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching and learning in Indiana and around the world. More at education.indiana.edu.
Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company. Fiber Internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com.
And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Imagine this. You get to the end of the lunch line and you're given an alternate meal because you don't have the ability to pay.
It is a feeling of utter humiliation. As you walk back to your seat,
We'll tell you how school corporations are tackling the tough issue of lunch debt. And we travel to Anderson, where a controversial program aimed at fighting the spread of disease may be discontinued.
We want our county to see what we're doing, the importance of what we're doing. We want to work together. We all want to be on the same page.
We'll tell you why some want to see the needle exchange shut down. Plus, we talk about what a new 10-year plan could mean for Indiana agriculture. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, you've probably heard of the term lunch shaming. It's made headlines across the country as school districts grapple with how to pay for meals when their students can't. The School Nutrition Association says about 75% of districts had some unpaid lunch debt at the end of the year. Reporter Barbara Brozier joins us now. Barbara, how do schools handle that debt?
Well, Joe, it really depends on the district, but new rules from the U.S. Department of Agriculture mean whatever that policy is, districts must have it in writing and communicate it to parents by tomorrow. In some communities, approaches are causing a massive public outcry. School's out for the summer, but the cafeteria at Bedford Middle School still fills with the sounds of children.
We have the biggest restaurant in town.
North Lawrence Community Schools offer a summer feeding program that's free to kids. Their parents can even get a meal for a few dollars.
Our policy is that we're going to feed our kids even if they may not have money with them.
It's a philosophy that extends beyond summer break. The school board adopted a policy last year that ensures students who don't have money to pay for lunch still get the same tray of food as everyone else.
We want to make sure that the kids come to the cafeteria and it is a place where they can relax and enjoy their meal and not feel any pressure when they come into the cafeteria. We may be their only happy, smiling, hello face of the day.
But that policy comes at a price. North Lawrence Community Schools currently have $38,000 in food services debt because the district absorbs the costs of unpaid lunches. Each year, it pays off the lunch debt of its graduating class.
If you think of every child as being priceless, then it's a pretty reasonable cost that we'll continue to absorb.
For many schools, it's not quite as simple. The Monroe County Community School Corporation is reconsidering the policy it formally adopted last month after hearing nothing but opposition during a school board meeting earlier this week.
I know in the world it's driven by money, but children are not just fiscal amounts.
Celestina Garcia broke into tears as she spoke before the board. She attended a school outside of the corporation that had a similar lunch debt policy and had her lunch taken away.
And it was, for somebody in middle school, pretty humiliating. It felt like everybody was looking at you, even if that wasn't true.
MCCSC's policy allows students who have a negative balance in their lunch accounts to charge a limited number of meals before being served an alternate meal of a peanut butter and jelly or cheese sandwich.
Full-pay students can charge up to 3 meals, ranging from $8.30 at the elementary schools to $8.75 at the high schools. Reduced-pay students can charge up to $2.15. which is a little over 5 meals if I do the math.
The district has more than $11,000 in lunch debt from this past school year. New federal regulations say it must pay that balance with money from the general fund, the same fund that's used to pay for teachers and curriculum. But several parents who spoke out argued the corporation is unfairly punishing children for an issue beyond their control.
It actively chooses humiliation of a child as a means to collect money. This is not respect, this is not nurturing, and this is not empowerment. In fact, it looks a lot like bullying.
The comments led Superintendent Judy DeMuth to agree to rework the lunch debt policy and bring it back to the board next month. MCCSC could look to other districts, like the Greenfield Central Community School Corporation, for ideas.
You're gonna spill that.
These students are participating in a summer feeding program the district offers at the Hancock County Boys and Girls Club. The staff here knows just how important having a warm meal is each day.
They're at that time frame in their lives where they need nutrients and just food to stay stimulated, especially during the school year.
Greenfield Central used to have a similar policy to MCCSC's, where students with lunch debt got a so-called sandwich of shame in place of a regular lunch. Under that policy, the district accrued about $9,000 in debt last year. Although it could end up costing more, Greenfield Central is changing its approach.
Starting the school year, the board's allowed us to change our policy for meal charging so that the younger children will get a regular tray regardless of their account balance.
After about a month of no payment, the district will attempt to recoup the accrued debt through collections, removing the child from the process. Greenfield Central also uses donations from its Feed the Future fund to help cover some of the meals. So far, there's only been about $140 donated to the account, but Zerwell says they're making it work.
Putting them in this position where we're trying to motivate a small child to motivate their parents to send some money to school. Just thought we could go at it a different way.
And Barbara joins us for a little bit more. Barbara, this is a federal mandate, so how are other states handling this issue?
Well, it's interesting, Joe. The state of New Mexico actually recently banned so-called lunch shaming. They said that children cannot be punished for not having money in their accounts. And the legislator there was kind of spurred to action because he himself had to mop floors to help pay off his school lunch debt. So they banned it there. Several other states are considering similar bills, and there's even a federal proposal before Congress that would end lunch shaming, not allow, again, students to be punished for not having that money.
So there's another controversial issue, and that is what do they do with the food after it's taken away from the student?
So that's something that a lot of people are concerned about. They're saying, how could this save money? Because some of the food that is not prepackaged is thrown away, but that food that is prepackaged is then put back in line and other students can take that food.
And when will MCCSC consider changes to that current lunch policy?
The superintendent is reworking the policy right now. She plans to bring it back to the school board next month. Their next meeting is July 25th.
All right, thank you very much, Barbara. After 3 years, Madison County in central Indiana might have to end its needle exchange. It was the second county to establish an exchange after the state worked to get one off the ground in Scott County in 2015 to slow the spread of HIV tied to injection drug use. Madison County's health nurse says the exchange is saving lives, but others who refer to the program as the heroin handout want the program shut down. For years, the city of Anderson has struggled with addiction.
We have a community that is probably the most troubled community in the state of Indiana for heroin.
Cummings says 700 people in his county have died from overdoses in the last 3 years. That's an average of 1 fatality every day and a half. Drugs including heroin, meth, and crack cocaine have become commonplace, and the search for a solution is dividing people in the community.
We want our county to see what we're doing, the importance of what we're doing. We want to work together. We all want to be on the same page.
Every day, Stephanie Grimes takes to the streets on a mission to help addicts in the community. Through her work with the Madison County Needle Exchange Program, she distributes clean syringes and works to educate users about safety and disease testing.
That syringe is like the dangling carrot to get people to come start to have conversations about testing, taking control of their own health.
The Madison County Needle Exchange Program relies on grants and donations to operate, as well as money from the county's general fund.
people believe that grant money, or that we use, or we are allowed to use state and/or federal tax dollars to fund the program needing to purchase syringes and the harm reduction kit supplies, which is absolutely false.
The county's commissioners voted unanimously last month to extend the program through 2018 and put up about half of the $54,000 needed to run the exchange for another year. But that funding could now be in jeopardy. Cummings is supporting an effort by some county councilors to pass an ordinance that would bar the county from giving any money for the purchase of needles or drug cookers. The council will hear the ordinance next month, and it would take away the money the commissioners already approved.
I think our county commissioners are still supporting it, but our county council is not going to fund it. They're not going to fund it. And I think we're headed for a pretty serious battle right now. And I think the health department's probably going to lose a lot of funding from the county if they continue to do this.
The proposal would also bar the exchange program from using grant money to purchase syringes.
It's illegal to give it's paraphernalia. If you stand on the corner and you give these kits away, you get arrested by the police. If you sell them at a convenience store, you get arrested by the police. Why does a government entity think they're above the law?
A new state law gives counties the authority to establish exchanges without going to the state for approval. But the law doesn't address funding or allocate any money for the exchanges. Medical experts say exchanges reduce the spread of HIV, hepatitis, and other diseases and don't cause increases in drug use.
There have even been numerous studies showing that even prisons are having to institute syringe exchange programs inside those walls. I think that the ongoing stigma and misinformation is really causing there to be a threat to our public health.
In a letter the state's health commissioner, Jerome Adams, penned last week, he acknowledged exchanges make some people uncomfortable. But Adams wrote, without needle exchanges, the opioid epidemic will continue to spread.
Ultimately, we just want to do what's right for our community, and that is the prevention of disease.
Critics of Madison County's exchange say money that currently goes to buying needles would be better spent on treatment and education. Grimes agrees those things are necessary, but space in treatment centers is limited, and studies show people who go to a syringe exchange are up to 5 times more likely to enter a treatment program than those who don't participate in an exchange. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. What will agriculture look like in the next decade in Indiana? Ahead, details from leaders in the industry. One of the oldest eagles in the country is nesting in Indiana. We'll tell you where, coming up right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
We are a nation of explorers. We seek new ways of living, of thinking, and of expressing ourselves. We take risks, we learn from experience, and we keep moving forward. That's why we encourage and celebrate the explorer in all of us.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Barbara Brozier joins us now for headlines. She has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Joe. The head of the Utilities District of Western Indiana is out of a job. The UDWI Electric Co-op fired Brian Sparks today, saying he had not lived up to management expectations. Now, Sparks had been on paid leave since May while an auditing firm conducted a review of the co-op's finances. As we've reported, there have been claims of money mismanagement during Sparks' tenure. The FBI is also conducting an investigation at UDWI. The Indiana Court of Appeals is upholding Daniel Messel's conviction for the murder of Indiana University student Hannah Wilson. Messel's appeal argued the 80-year sentence was excessive and some evidence was improperly allowed at his trial. The court's decision says Messel preyed upon an intoxicated young woman. Messel's attorney says they will ask the state Supreme Court to hear the case, but the prosecutor who worked on the trial says he's confident in the conviction.
I have never, in my 11 years of being an attorney, gone through the steps of caution that we took to preserve this record. So I believe that our conviction will stand. I believe it was a fair trial.
Messel is serving his sentence at the maximum security Wabash Correctional Facility. He also faces charges in Monroe County for an unrelated rape in Bloomington in 2012. The state is officially taking over control of I-69 Section 5. The interstate will connect Bloomington and Martinsville. The Indiana Finance Authority approved a resolution to end its public-private partnership with I-69 development partners this week. The decision comes after months of delays and financial troubles. Section 5 is supposed to be complete by August of 2018. Key parts of Indiana's new anti-abortion law won't take effect after a federal judge issued a temporary injunction to prevent the state from enforcing 3 parts of the controversial measure. The provisions involve requirements for parental notification, ID requirements for the parents giving consent for an abortion, and a provision banning Planned Parenthood or anyone else from telling a minor about abortion options outside of Indiana.
The persons in the State House who think it's okay to put these things into law have no notion of what they're going through. And it lacks intelligence and it lacks compassion.
In a statement, the state's attorney general says the temporary injunction will force minor girls to, quote, go it alone with their abortions. President Donald Trump has nominated Indiana Health Commissioner Jerome Adams for the U.S. Surgeon General position. Adams has held his current position in Indiana since 2014. During his tenure, he supervised the rollout of needle exchange programs, which aim to reduce the spread of disease among intravenous drug users. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is moving forward with a plan to demolish East Chicago's lead-contaminated West Calumet housing complex. The city of East Chicago finished relocating more than 1,000 housing complex residents this spring. At a public meeting this week, residents expressed concern that demolition of the housing complex will unearth more toxic soil, spread contaminated dust, pollute groundwater, or harm nearby residents or workers on site.
I am not the only one that's sick, that has lead in my house, that has arsenic in my house, that has contaminated groundwater, that has black stuff coming out from the water. It is throughout the whole area. It's extending. This is a health risk, safety for everybody.
Officials plan to demolish the complex's building later this year. The Department of Housing and Urban Development must first sign off. Protesters are attempting to get the attention of federal lawmakers by hosting die-in events in Bloomington and outside of Senator Todd Young's office in Indianapolis. They featured people lying on the ground to protest the Republican health care bill.
We know that if 23 million people lose health care, which is the prediction for this bill, that translates into something like 23,000 deaths a year. In Indiana, it'd be like 11 deaths a day.
In a statement, Senator Young's spokesperson says he continues to consider the input of all Hoosiers. A vote on the bill has been delayed until after the July 4th holiday. The EPA plans to rescind the Clean Water Rule in a portion of the text that defines waters of the U.S. The EPA's announcement is the first step in the process to do away with the waters of the U.S. regulations. The controversial rule dictates which bodies of water are subject to federal clean water regulations. Indiana and several other states challenged the current interpretation of the rule, which is under a stay. A U.S. Supreme Court ruling in favor of same-sex couples who want both spouses listed on their child's birth certificate could impact a ruling in a similar case in Indiana. A group of 8 lesbian couples is suing in Indiana to have the same right. The 7th Circuit Court of Appeals heard arguments last month but hasn't issued a ruling. Indianapolis Public Schools plan to close 3 of their 7 high schools in response to decades of enrollment declines. The proposal calls for converting Arlington and Northwest high schools into middle schools, starting with the 2018-2019 school year, and selling or leasing the Broad Ripple High School property. The closings are estimated to save the district $7 million a year. Critics of the closures, however, are asking district leaders to slow down their plans. A group suing over the authorization of a charter school has dropped the school itself from the lawsuit. The lawsuit says the authorization of Seven Oaks Classical School is unconstitutional because it was done by a religious institution, Grace College and Seminary. An attorney for the Indiana Coalition for Public Education Monroe County, which filed the suit, says the school requested the dismissal. The state is still named in the lawsuit. An Indianapolis-based insurance company may be paying the largest ever settlement in a data breach case. Anthem is proposing a $115 million settlement for the victims of a 2015 data breach that may have included nearly 80 million people. The plaintiff's attorneys filed a motion to approve the settlement in federal court, and a judge will review the plaintiff's motion in August. DraftKings, FanDuel, and Fantasy Draft are the first fantasy sports companies to be granted licenses by the Indiana Gaming Commission, following new regulations set by state lawmakers. Now, under these regulations, paid fantasy sports companies have to pay a $50,000 initial licensing fee and a $5,000 annual fee after that. The approved companies represent only a small percentage of websites offering the service. The town of Nashville wants to expand its water services to new customers. But first, the plan has to be approved by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. If approved, the ordinance would keep others from serving in those areas, making Nashville the sole provider. The attorney for Nashville says the rates for other customers could go up if the petition isn't approved.
It's important for their water rates, it's important for their sewer rates, they can offer services to all the people out there, and it's important for developers and everybody to know if they are developing in this area or if they're going to be building a house or they need service, who they can go to for that service.
A hearing is scheduled for September 15th. Janik says the commission will then likely issue an order within 60 to 90 days. A portion of Yellowwood Road in Brown County is closed as construction moves ahead on a controversial $4.5 million road project. The state is building a 300-foot bridge over Salt Creek and realigning the road. Residents stopped the project decades ago because of environmental concerns. They're still worried the work won't address problems with creeks eroding the roads and could harm the forest.
There wasn't the will of the INDOT to work on that part of the issue. So I don't think they're actually going to solve the erosion problem with the new road.
The project will be finished. It will be okay, but it won't be in scale with what's around here.
Yellowwood Road will be closed between State Road 46 and Yellowwood Lake Road for more than 100 days. The second phase of the project will start in July. And IU's new men's basketball coach will make $24 million under his 7-year deal. Archie Miller has the opportunity for more money through bonuses, including a $250,000 bonus for winning a national championship. Joe, I picked the wrong career.
I know, right? Thanks a lot, Barbara. Indiana has always been fertile ground for the agriculture industry, but an ever-changing landscape requires a vision for the future. As Brad Davis reports, farming power players are coming together to forge a path forward.
A diverse group of leaders from Indiana's agriculture industry gathered this week to unveil their plan for the next decade of Hoosier agriculture. It's called the Indiana Strategic Agriculture Plan, a 10-year directional plan focused on pushing Indiana agriculture through innovation, education, and collaboration.
Indiana agriculture is special, and I mean that. I've had a chance to work with other states, and the collaboration and the ability to get along by the different entities in Indiana Ag is something special.
The plan is the result of 18 months of collaboration between a committee made up of representatives from agricultural boards, universities, and both government and non-government organizations. It outlines 7 key priorities all Hoosier ag leaders share. For example, one strategic priority is improving Indiana's infrastructure to help bolster the agriculture industry. The plan details ways to ensure Indiana improves access to global markets with a reliable rail system and port capacity. Part of the action plan requires the Indiana Farm Bureau to identify and assist with the elimination of unneeded rail crossings in the state by 2020. The plan outlines a timeline, action plan, and list of any resources needed in order to bring the decade-long roadmap to life.
So we've not just admired problems or challenges ahead of us, but we've sat down, we've brought the stakeholders together, we've made room at the table for positions and perspectives, and then we emerge with a plan in hand, and then we go about executing it.
Overall, the plan hopes to fortify the future of Indiana Ag through the education of tomorrow's innovators and continued collaboration between all those involved in the strategic plan's inception. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Brad Davis.
And a bald eagle believed to be one of the oldest in the U.S. has been spotted again at Lake Monroe. The 29-year-old female is one of the original eagles brought to Indiana in the 1980s as part of a reintroduction program. And that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a good weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following: IU Health Southern Indiana physicians, primary care and specialty care providers now accepting new patients in Bloomington and throughout South Central Indiana. siphysicians.org. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching and learning in Indiana and around the world. More at education.indiana.edu.
Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company. Fiber Internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com.
And by WTIU members, thank you.